Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting, thrill-packed episode of your favorite podcast, Hindsight is Horrifying. I am one of your hosts, Jason Mitchell, and I'm here with my co-host,
Darth Jader.
And tonight we are looking at a film from the
1999.
1999. So
Yes,
it's still technically the 90s.
Yes.
We are continuing our Halloween movie extravaganza.
Ooh.
And we're actually doing something that I think is very appropriate for Halloween tonight. It's one of the more Halloween-ish movies.
And bizarrely enough, I love this particular movie, even though it scared me as a kid.
Really? This scared you?
I would, in 1999, I was like 11 years old.
What didn't scare you?
Nothing. We've been over this. If Ace Ventura can scare
it's
me.
It's the Little Mermaid.
Hey, there are people who didn't like Ursula in that movie when they were kids. So.
Well, that's just sad. Anyway, we're doing a movie directed by Johnny Depp, starring Tim Burton.
And Helena Bonham Carter.
Yes, and she's in it, and there's other people.
She's the horseman.
Yeah.
It was
Darth Maul.
Really?
Darth
Are we
Maul.
teasing about this one, or like, is this a real thing?
No, Darth Maul's in this movie.
Who is he?
Ray Park. Well, let's tell.
Okay, we'll get to it. Okay, so yes,
say
listeners,
what the movie is.
We are watching 1999's Sleepy Hollow, actually starring Johnny Depp, directed by Tim Burton, because Tim Burton went to Johnny and said, "Hey, I have an idea," and Johnny said yes, which he always does.
Yeah.
But don't worry, Johnny, I love you and all of your movies. So this is actually our first Johnny Depp flick that we've done.
Yeah, that's right.
Which surprises me because I'm such a big fan of his, and I love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, everything that he does. But yeah, this is Sleepy Hollow, the adaptation of Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was originally made into a film with Bing Crosby as the narrator, and it was a cartoon.
Oh yeah, the Disney one.
Yes, Disney.
Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
like, even the first time I see Ichabod in the movie, when I was rewatching this, I was just sort of singing to myself, Ichabod Crane, because I love that song.
No, yeah, that movie was that's one of my favorites from whenever I was a kid.
Oh, absolutely.
But what I was saying before that with Darth Maul, Ray Parks is the Headless Horseman.
Yes, the person who does all the action is the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
Whenever he is headless.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so Darth Maul is the person fighting against Casper Van Dien.
That is hilarious,
Yeah.
especially considering he cuts Casper Van Dien in half.
Yeah.
That's he.
It's a thing he does.
No, Obi-Wan Kenobi cut Darth Maul in half.
That's right. Obi-Wan. I blocked most of that movie
together. Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't kill him.
No, apparently not.
No,
he
it
just
didn't.
fused himself back together.
Well, he actually had a spider robot body for a while.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. Let's move on.
I was about to say, I don't know anything about this. But yeah, so unlike the Disney version, this is a much darker version of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and the whole concept is dark in general. You wouldn't even think that it would be a children's story, because it's about a headless horseman who decapitates his victims and takes their heads back to hell. So,
it's a movie that Tim Burton wanted to do a movie that was not really an homage, but in the style of the old Hammer horror movies. That's why you've got Peter Cushing in it. And
Michael Gough.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, Christopher Lee.
Yeah, tons of big names in this movie. Even Martin Landau starts the movie out. And so for those of you who haven't seen this cinematic classic from my childhood, if you're not familiar with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, it's we've already summed that up in a way, but
yes.
I just totally blanked.
She's staring at Johnny
for those
Depp,
of
everybody.
Yeah,
this is going to happen.
So pretty. I got distracted.
I'm staring at Christopher Lee.
Sorry, listeners. But yeah, so essentially this story starts off with a mystery, and that's what Ichabod is attempting to solve. And it's not technically about the horseman. He's almost the through line in this version, because in all other Legends of Sleepy Hollow adaptations that I've seen, it's primarily focused on the horseman. But in this, the horseman is kind of a tool. He's being, puppeteered by...
Damn, dog. What do he do to you?
No, he is. He's being puppeteered by someone who controls him.
I know.
I see.
Oh.
Damn, bitch.
I mean, Jesus.
I'm so mean.
Well,
such a mean girl.
And that actually fits in with the whole Hammer horror thing also, because in a lot of those, you could sum up a lot of those old horror movies by a person who is a scientist who doesn't believe in anything paranormal
Right.
is sent to a small backwater where something
Supernatural is taking
and
place.
people are being killed by something supernatural, and he shows up and is all like, I don't believe in the supernatural. I'm going to use oh my God, it is supernatural. I've changed my ways.
Yeah, because Ichabod does have that sort of manic craze moment when he finally does discover that the horseman is real, where he was a headless horseman. I saw him. You must believe me. He's real. And the villagers are like, we know.
No shit.
We're aware.
Yeah.
We told you this.
Yeah.
So, so you do have that. I believe in what I can see. I'm a scientist.
I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks.
Thank you, Ray.
And Miranda Richardson. I love Miranda Richardson.
Yeah, she totally steals the show in this movie. But the other big names, including Michael Gambon, a.k.a. Cut Rate Dumbledore.
No, excuse me?
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Oh, my God.
Michael Gambon could act rings around that dude.
Richard Harris?
Yeah.
Excuse you.
Michael Gambon's awesome.
Step right out. We're going to fight.
Does Richard Harris have a place named after him on the Top Gear track? No, he doesn't.
What?
So there we are.
He's the original Dumbledore, so whatever. Yeah. There are people who are still bitter about that, Darth included. So, yeah, I do like Michael Gambon. Don't get me wrong, even though I give him a hard time.
I wonder if there's going to be a time when Harry Potter just sort of fades into something. Like, will it in Star Wars just kind of leave us alone at some point?
I have no idea. I think that people are getting tired of some of the canon in Harry Potter, so I'm not really sure. We'll see what happens. I did see an idea for a pitch in the HP world where it's like, instead of extenuating the story in this direction, why don't we just do a drunk history with wizards, and they can talk about the witch burnings of Salem and all this other stuff. So like people are just kind of trying to come up with their own ideas now.
Yeah, I suppose. It's sort of like you look at something like this and it's a good movie and it's set in a certain time and
1799.
Yeah, well, and I suppose I should lay my cards on the table where I come down on this movie. When I first saw this is one of those rare times where I went to the movie theater by myself.
Okay.
Because I think if I
when you weren't trying to score with a date for a change?
Yeah, I don't think I got stood up or anything. I seem to remember somebody was going to go with me and they couldn't, and I already bought the ticket, and I just said, well,
just go enjoy the movie.
Hell with it, I'm going to go watch the movie.
Yep.
And I think that had a big impact on the enjoyment I had watching the movie because I really, really liked it. I didn't love it, but I did come away thinking, okay, it was good. I really enjoyed it. And it is, and I'm going to use this word carefully, it was flawless, meaning there's nothing in the movie.
There aren't any gaping plot holes. Like
there's not anything wrong.
No. Especially when you come down to the specifics like the music.
Oh, I didn't know Coppola was the executive producer.
I was going to bring that up. Oh. He was Francis Ford Coppola was the executive producer, and Danny Elfman obviously did the music, which you can't hear.
Yeah.
He's, the pet musician.
Yeah, I can do it for you.
No, that is not what the music is like at all. That's actually one of the things that sucked me into this story so much is the music is incredible. It's so eerie and kind of mystical. And
well, again, it's a flawless, and I'm being very careful the way I say that. It is, I'm not saying that, it's one of my all-time favorite movies ever. Because it isn't. I like it a lot, but I think that if you look at Tim Burton, Johnny Depp movies,
it's hard to pick apart the way some of their current work or more current work is. I'm with you.
I would definitely say that Ed Wood is the superior movie. Ed Wood is in my top probably 3
Ed
of all
Wood
time
is
movies
Seinfeld
ever.
on crack. Yes, Ed Wood's amazing.
Oh, speaking of,
speaking of crack.
No, well, Seinfeld reminded me of the Alfred Seinfeld Scale, and that reminded me. I heard some very sad news today. That I hesitate to bring this to the audience because I know it's going to make a lot of people really sad. But I do think since we've talked about Seinfeld and Alf so much,
I'm so scared. What is it?
I learned today that they are in the process of rebooting Alf.
Oh, good. You asked. You had me thinking somebody had died or something tragic had happened.
No.
That is pretty tragic now that I think about it, though.
No one died, but
now that I'm over the initial shock of the news.
The actual article I read said that they either one of the networks or whoever owns the rights to Alf
Michael Eisner.
I'm sure it's Michael Eisner. I'm sure Bob Iger. Bob
Oh,
Iger.
yes, Bob Iger.
Yeah, he put his winter coat on for the first time because it got cold, and he put his hand in a pocket and he pulled something. What is this? Oh, it's a $5 bill. Oh, and the rights to Alf.
Oh my God.
Oh, hey,
It's coming back.
yeah.
Get excited.
So yeah, they're looking for a writer. To which I say, let me write it.
Oh God, you can improve it vastly.
I'll give you Alf.
Oh God, it would get so scary. We could use my pitch from Shivers where he commits vehicular homicide and winds up in prison. That'd be a great episode. But okay, so after that tragic news, let's get back to this scary movie, which we've gotten to the point where Johnny Depp is officially in Sleepy Hollow. He's this busy New York City detective, and
no, that's not true. He's been in it from the beginning. He was in the first scene, wasn't he?
Johnny Depp?
Yeah, he's been in Sleepy Hollow the whole time.
No.
Yeah.
He was in New York, and he was in New York.
But he was in the movie Sleepy Hollow.
Shut up, Jason.
Jesus.
I'm going to smack you.
There's Michael Gambon.
Yep, he just appeared with Miranda Richardson. So Ichabod is basically a pain in the ass to the New York City judge. And he keeps crowing about being more thorough and using scientific investigation to solve crimes. We must use our brains to recognize vital clues. And he's a bit tumultuous in the system because he believes in autopsy, and people think that's a heathen performance, so it's very controversial. But so the judge, Christopher Lee, gets fed up and sends Ichabod to Sleepy Hollow to solve the mystery of this Headless Horseman who has murdered 3 people in the past fortnight. So now we see Christina Ricci as well. She's playing this game called Pickety Witch, where the guys are in a circle going around her. She's blindfolded and she's reaching out. The Pickety Witch. Who's got a kiss for the Pickety Witch? And who does she kiss? But Johnny Depp.
Yeah, sure. That was a coincidence.
No, that wasn't orchestrated at all.
It's very odd, for her to be the love interest.
It is, especially. Have you ever seen the behind the scenes about this movie?
No, I have
They
not.
did a featurette on it, and she even mentioned that. She was like, yeah, so I met Johnny when I was 9, and he was about 30. So, because there's about a 17-year age difference between them.
Yeah, that's
and they did a project together when she was a little girl, and so she even mentioned how strange that was, because she's like, so I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, Johnny Depp's a good looking fella, but that was just a little bit strange. So yeah, it is a little bit bizarre that they cast her, but she does a really good job. Like going back to Harry Potter, the witchcraft and whatnot, it all ties in, because she's got these witchy qualities about her, and she's casting little spells and charms throughout the movie. And that actually ties back to Ichabod's childhood, we come to find, because his mother, he calls her an innocent, a child of nature, but she's a witch, basically.
Yeah.
She can float and sort of fly through the trees and do all this crazy nonsense.
She's oh God, who plays her?
I'm actually not sure. I do have the list here.
I can't believe this. It was Tim Burton's girlfriend, wasn't it?
Helena Bonham Carter? No.
No.
I don't think she's on this list that I have, because she's...
Lisa Marie.
Oh, that's Lisa Marie?
Yeah, Lisa Marie. She played Lady Crane. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
Lisa Marie. Yeah. No, Lisa Marie is astonishingly hot. And I remember I saw
And put her in a...
There was a spread in I think it was in Maxim, in the early 2000s, and they summed it up perfectly. They said if Tim Burton ever complains about anything, beat him to death.
Oh, wow.
And of course they're not together anymore, but
Well, neither are he and Helena Bonham Carter. When they divorced, I actually volunteered to take custody of Johnny because I didn't want him to have to choose between them.
Well, actually, he might have a new mom because I heard that Tim Burton might be dating not Rachel Weisz. That's James Bond's wife.
Name the movie she was in.
Forgot. She's from Penny Dreadful.
Eva Green?
Eva Green.
One of your hall pass people that you couldn't remember? Yeah.
Hall pass people.
You may not remember this from 10 Things I Hate About You, but you actually made Katie.
I was pretty loaded during that episode. I don't remember much of that episode.
You forced Katie and Adam Brown and me to list our hall pass celebrities, and Eva Green was one of your 3.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So along with Jennifer Connelly.
Yes.
So, yeah. So anyway, back to the movie. We finally get a look at the Headless Horseman when Ichabod is interviewing all of the town elders, the doctor, the magistrate, the reverend, and the notary. And he's like, is anybody suspected of these murders, of these decapitations? And they're like, what did your superiors tell you? Because you obviously don't know the full story. So then we get the backstory of the Hessian mercenary when he was alive, a.k.a. Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Christopher damned Walken is the Headless Horseman. And I had no idea.
He doesn't have any lines, though. Yeah.
No, he literally just screams, ah!
Yeah, that's his whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's making his horse go faster, or he growls at Miranda Richardson at the end. That's about it. He literally doesn't speak. He's barely in the movie. And what's funny about this is that you can see that he's got this, he has a deep love for his horse, Daredevil. They're partners, and even though he's a very creepy looking guy, he's filed his teeth down to points, which, God, wouldn't that hurt?
Yeah, it seems like it would A, hurt, and B, probably, given the era, cause you to die.
Yeah, there's there's no way that was a safe procedure.
No.
They didn't.
No. Well, and also, wouldn't he have had to have had, like, incredibly long teeth to begin with?
You got to wonder, because, like, when you file them down, they still look like a normal length, even though maybe he's just done the sides. Like, he didn't actually file them to be any shorter. He just got rid of the edges to make them sharp.
I don't know.
I want to hear the backstory of that. That's what I want to know. But yeah, so you see the horseman die because this tiny little girl, he's running away from the American army, and she snaps a twig to lead them in his direction, and it gets him murdered, and they bury him in the western woods, and now it's a haunted place where brave men will not venture.
Yeah.
All spooktacular. But getting back to the horse really fast, Christopher Walken, I mean, the horseman has such an obvious love for his horse in the movie, but in real life, he was very cautious around the horse. He's like, I'm a New York City guy.
Well, he couldn't ride a horse.
No, he could.
No.
No, not at first. Yeah. He had to learn because he was like, I've never been around like big animals like that.
He waited until after he signed to let Tim Burton know that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he waited until after he had the part, and then he told Tim Burton, oh, by the way, I can't ride a horse.
But that is so Joey from Friends. Like, he claims in one episode that he can play the guitar, and they're like, Joey, why would you say that? When he claims that he's uncircumcised. And they're like, why would you say that if you have to be nude? And he's like, in Hollywood, you say yes, and then you just learn how to do something. You learn to ride the horse, or you learn to surf. And they're like, yeah, but Joey, that's like learning how to grow a turtleneck.
Yeah.
So at least this was an easier task for Christopher Walken to accomplish.
Well, and also riding a horse is not that hard.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly like, I would rather have to learn to ride a horse than to like learn how to sword fight.
Yeah, because if we learn anything from our Princess Bride episode, learning to sword fight is incredibly difficult. Yeah. Even when you have master teachers like Carrie always did. So
mood is very much at the center of this movie.
It is. It's in the heart of the music, the visuals, the lighting, everything.
Yeah, it's a very atmospheric.
It's very macabre. Yes.
It's got an atmosphere that I've always thought that I don't think that M. Night Shyamalan did it consciously, but in The Village, I always felt like there was sort of an attempt to capture the same kind of vibe,
right?
When he made The Village,
the sense of isolation, like with the fog, and the lack of being able to see what's around you, and how something could just sneak up on you at any moment. Yeah, I know.
Well, and it is, it's such that they're off in some small town in, what year is it supposed to be again?
1799.
1799. Okay, so it's almost the 19th or
the 18th
century. No, it's almost the 19th century.
I was about to say 1800s, but you were talking about centuries.
And, so it's easy to imagine a town being totally isolated to the point that if there was something attacking the town, the troops weren't going to come in. The police weren't going to come in.
Yeah, they're not really on anyone's radar. So, Oh, and not to interrupt you, Jason, but another fun horse fact about this movie, Gunpowder, Ichabod's horse, Johnny Depp adopted him. When they did this film, he ended up with a horse and the torture device that you see toward the beginning of the movie.
Do you know why he adopted the horse?
I don't remember, no.
Because he found out that the horse was going to be put down.
Oh,
there was something.
Johnny, I love you.
So he adopted the horse, and
I love him even more than
presumably
I did
the horse lived at least a slightly longer life.
I would hope so. I'm sure Johnny gave him a nice home.
But one of the things that I think that adds to the atmosphere of this is the fact that they built this town.
Yeah, from the ground up.
Yeah, they built the entire town, and they did a great job of building it. And one of the quotes I saw somewhere. Somebody said that walking around the town felt like walking around in Tim Burton's head. It just
how frightening!
Yeah, that's what they said. It was the whole town. It felt like if Tim Burton, if
It's like the Tim Burton pop-up book.
Sort of. But it also goes back to the Hammer horror films, because in all of those there was always that sense of isolation too, which was a lot of those movies they fall into this sort of trap where they talk about a town in Germany and they think that Germany is like a really big place.
Yeah.
When geographically, it's really not that big. And
I've never been. So.
Nothing can really be that isolated there, but they always did such a good job of this. Oh, there's a village with a castle and it might even have like a count living there and all this stuff. And there's all these people and it's totally isolated. And no one ever goes there.
And people have been committing murders here for years and we've never figured out who it was.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny about Sleepy Hollow being such a small little village is that, and even Christina Ricci, that adds to the atmosphere of it, because Ichabod comes to find that Van Garrett, he and his son are murdered at the beginning of the movie, along with someone called the Widow Winship. And then the next murder that happens is Jonathan Masbeth, and he's the servant of Van Garrett. And it all starts, Ichabod's trying to figure it out, and then he looks at the Reverend's Bible and finds out that the Van Garretts are related to the Van Tassels. So that makes him suspicious of the Van Tassel family, because they're the ones who immediately stand to gain if the richest family in Sleepy Hollow is murdered.
Right.
But and Ichabod's like, why did nobody think to tell me that they're kith and kin to each other? And Christina Ricci responds, she said, well, there's hardly a household in Sleepy Hollow that isn't connected that way by blood or marriage.
Yeah.
It's just that small of a town.
Yeah.
But to that end, like, there's a lot of people who essentially would stand to gain, so that widens his list of suspects.
Yeah.
But we're in this great scene right now where we see Jonathan Masbeth. He's been beheaded by the horsemen, and Ichabod is using all these little powders and odd little instruments, pinchers and whatnot, to figure out. And I don't understand what this powder is really accomplishing, but you hear him tell you what he's learning.
Yeah, he explains it to you, so you don't need to worry about it.
He sprinkles powder.
It makes a sizzly sound and some smoke rises, and then he tells you something.
Yeah, they make him very Sherlockian in this movie. Like, Ichabod is much more of a detective, like, on the case, and he's very logical. And we've talked about this before, but Johnny Depp has mentioned the fact that Tim Burton loves to spray him with blood.
Yeah.
That's just like a thing that happens in a lot of the movies that he stars in for Tim Burton. And you see that that's coming up here in a minute when he gets to examine the body, because apparently the people in Sleepy Hollow have no issue with autopsy like they do in New York, which seems a little backwards. But the first prod...
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they just had a problem with him.
Or maybe it's just like, okay, that's the lesser of an evil, where it's like maybe he can figure something out and that at least gets these murders to stop.
Yeah.
But
it's one thing that I find neat about the way they shot the movie, looking at this exterior scene at the funeral.
Oh no, there's a child within 15 feet of Jeffrey Jones. That can't be allowed.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I try to keep forgetting that Jeffrey Jones has a history.
Has a predilection for small children. Yeah.
Oh,
it's horrifying.
Damn it, Jeffrey Jones.
Hindsight is horrifying.
I really liked you.
I know. He's such a great actor.
I know. It's like everything he's in, every movie he's in, I enjoy.
And you got to wonder, like, because, I mean, Tim Burton already liked Jeffrey Jones because he was in Beetlejuice. So, and Tim Burton, as we know, tends to keep using the actors that he likes. It's very Adam Sandler of it.
Yeah.
But,
God, don't say that.
No, I just mean like he uses the same group of people over and over. That's the only comparison.
There is nothing about Tim Burton that's very Adam Sandler.
Oh my God, get over it.
They wear shoes. There.
They're both human men.
Yes.
But so young Masbeth, they're at the grave of his father, and he pretty much vows his service to Ichabod because he wants to avenge his dad and get down to the bottom of the mystery of everyone being beheaded in Sleepy Hollow. So now we're up to 4 victims, or so we think, because we're at the gravesite, and Magistrate Phillips comes up to tell Ichabod, no. There are 5 bodies in 4 graves. So in
dun.
dramatic grave. But yeah, so Phillips gives Crane that clue. But what's really weird about that, going back to the autopsy exception here in Sleepy Hollow, in this little bitty farmer's village, he's basically giving Ichabod the hint to go and perform a C-section on a woman.
Right, yeah.
So that in and of itself is a little weird. Like, some things just didn't fit. Like, Christina Ricci is awfully forward with Ichabod, considering
Yeah.
it's 1799 and she's kind of seeing someone else.
Well, it's a Tim Burton movie.
Well,
You know,
and it's Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't abandon their boyfriend to go date Johnny Depp? Because Johnny actually
I don't know,
volunteered.
Casper Van Dien. I mean,
Casper Van Dien is a very good looking man.
come on,
And he's not a fainting goat like Ichabod Crane, because I think he
Yes.
faints something like 6 or 7 times in this film. And Christina Ricci faints quite a bit herself. They're both fainting goats.
Well, one of the things I was going to say about how they shot it, and going back to the vibe,
sorry.
to the mood, is the whole movie was shot with a blue filter. And,
Really?
Yeah, and because
never knew that.
and because of that, because the blue filter, it gives you this cool, dark look
Right.
to it, and also it kills the cyan colors that are in there. But because of that, the fake blood wouldn't look like blood.
Okay.
So it had to be, I think it was bright orange.
Really?
Yeah, they had the liquid had to be
Oh.
like an orange color in order to show up as blood
That is
on
cool.
the on the film, which is sort of like what was it in Psycho?
They use chocolate
Yeah,
syrup.
they used chocolate syrup because
Yep.
fake blood didn't look like blood.
Yeah, with Janet Leigh, they had to do the syrup.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a bit of overkill here, where Ichabod does discover that the widow Winship was in fact pregnant when the horseman murdered her. And when they go to dig up the graves to let Ichabod examine the bodies, you see a slice wound in her belly. So the horseman is thorough, if
Yeah.
nothing else. That's just so dark, knowing that an unborn child was murdered by
Yeah.
sword. That's pretty rough to
Yeah.
think about. But because I mean, if you kill the mother, and nobody knew that the widow Winship was pregnant, you would think that he wouldn't worry about it. But that's just Tim Burton all over to add that gory little detail.
That's again sort of a nod to the old Hammer movies, sort of like whenever the whole thing where you see the spiked face, his
Right.
mom. That's actually straight out of, I think, an Italian movie called Black Sunday.
Is it
I
really?
think it's from Black Sunday. It's from one of those old, that
Right.
era of horror movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and John, not the one that that Ichabod's mother was kept in, but the first torture device that you see when Johnny Depp is in the courtroom arguing for sense and justice. There's a man that he's defending in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Who's encased in this like iron torture device with, I guess, spikes of some sort in it.
Yeah.
But he's alive. And Johnny Depp actually fell in love with that and got to keep it because he's Johnny Depp.
Well, you want conversation pieces in your living room when
Sure.
friends come over.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I imagine he's probably got a darker version of what you got going on at home, Jason, with your Gene Hackman portrait
so.
and your Smith & Wesson and all these awesome props and whatnot from movies.
Yeah, of course, Johnny Depp lately has been a little.
He's been having a rough go of it,
He's had a rough few years.
Ever since Amber Heard walked into that man's life, it has gone downhill.
Well, okay, which one accused him of abuse? Was it Amber Heard?
Amber Heard from that movie. They met on a movie set where...
Vanessa Paradis was before her then.
Yeah, that's the mother of his children.
Okay.
So just completely different. But and now his Lily Rose, his daughter, is an actress now.
Well, big surprise.
I know, right? Shocking.
Yeah.
But yeah, but going back to talking about how Christina Ricci just utterly not abandons right away, but she obviously has interest in Ichabod, but who wouldn't, with it being Johnny Depp? However, he did actually volunteer to do prosthetics to enlarge his ears and his nose so that he would look more like the 1949 cartoon Ichabod Crane.
Yeah. I think that was a good decision to not make him just a straight up Ichabod Crane from the story, because
It's not the same personality. It's not the same.
Yeah, I mean,
they're different.
Yeah, the Ichabod Crane from the story is
He's a teacher.
Yeah, and he's much more hapless.
Yeah, he's kind of a goofy doof. Yeah, and
Although, Irving claimed that it was based on a true story.
okay.
Irving. Well, I don't know if he claimed that the Headless Horseman was real, but Ichabod Crane, he said, was a real person, and
He may have Sherlocked it a little bit, where he took influences from a couple of real different people, maybe.
Yeah.
And sort of made an amalgam.
yeah, it could have been something like that.
I'm guessing. Well, because I have to point this out. This was I guess the predecessor look for what they inevitably did with Robert Downey Jr. in Sherlock Holmes. It's the same hair, the same kind of general look.
Absolutely.
Because when I went, I love those Sherlock movies. They're some of my favorites. But when I went to go see that movie with RDJ, I was like, wow. So Ichabod Crane from Sleepy Hollow is now Sherlock Holmes. What a surprise.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Oh, there's your girl, Jason, Lisa Marie.
Yeah. Oh
and
God damn.
Now Jason's distracted, guys, so I'm going to talk for a second.
Yeah.
She...
And the kid in this scene is so weird looking.
He's got this porridge bowl haircut, and he's got a strange face.
I know. I feel so bad saying that. I'm going to assume that it was digitally done, and that's not his real face. And don't disabuse me of that.
I was about to say, I will let you keep that assumption, but you get these little flashbacks with Ichabod because he's clearly suppressed memories from his childhood where his mother was a witch. Using optics. Yeah. I mean, she did do very witchy things. Like she's drawing these sort of pagan symbols in the hearth by their fire.
Everything she wore was a sexy witch costume.
I mean, sexy anything when you include a corset, because that just puts everything all in the right places for guys to enjoy.
Yeah, she was great in this, and she was great in Mars Attacks also.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, Mars Attacks.
Once again, another movie that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. I hated Mars Attacks.
You've got to be kidding me.
The alien. I was single digits when that movie. Oh, shut!
You're the only person in history to be scared of Mars Attacks.
Oh, shut up. But yeah, so you get these flashbacks to Ichabod and his mother, and he keeps waking up from these nightmarish flashbacks. And then there's a bit of a tie-in because we mentioned that Christina Ricci's got some witchy qualities of her own. She's this crazy person who stays up late to read at night, and she's reading this book of spells, and she gifts it to Ichabod to protect him from harm.
Yeah.
And she too is like sort of drawing little symbols in the dirt, and there are all these similarities between Christina Ricci and his mother, so it's very Freudian.
Yeah, there's a little bit there, and
especially with the age difference.
Yeah, and I like the idea that part of the reason why Johnny Depp's character, why Crane is the way he is sort of this. It's not just the fact that it's like he's subconsciously fighting against the idea that his mom was a witch, but there's also this sort of tension with the fact that his mom was a witch, but she also did things that were scientific, and she had little, like the optics thing.
Right, because that's not witchcraft. That's just
science.
It's
just that's a neat trick,
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a wizard.
Yeah, so it's sort of, you can kind of sit back and think about it if how did that influence how Crane developed?
Well, and none of her witch-like activities seemed particularly harmful. She wasn't going around eating babies or doing anything horrendous. She was just drawing little symbols, and at one point she floats in the air. Yeah. There's nothing malicious about what his mother did, but his dad is a Bible thumper and murders her for being a witch.
Yeah, you think he would have maybe caught on to it. Either that or it was like, oh my God, she's hot. I'll make it work. The witch thing, I'll make it work. I'll make it work somehow. I have to marry you in order to... Okay, fine.
Done.
Where's a ring? I got a ring somewhere.
Where's the reverend? We're doing this.
She's a devil-worshipping witch, right? Yeah. We'll work on that.
She doesn't float, man. That's cool. That's cool. Don't worry about it. But yeah,
and someday she'll have a great-great-grandchild named Fraser. and that's
that got me harder than it should.
There you go. And there's a lot. Why did Fraser fall in love with Lilith? Yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go.
How did you just do that?
Yep,
that was the most amazing link that we. That one's the king of the links. Well done.
Same
Applause.
Universe. Absolutely same universe.
I love it.
And think about it. Did we and Frasier fans can tell me this. I don't remember ever seeing anything about his mom in the show, because obviously his dad's in there.
I think his dad makes vague allusions to her.
Yeah, I mean they reference her
right, but they don't really get into it.
Yeah.
No.
So for all those of you at home, that's something that you probably didn't know, was that Frasier and
Ichabod Crane are related.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's thrilling. So now that we have that,
not sure how Niles fits into all this, but
he got the really like the chicken portion of the personality, where because Ichabod he's a little squeamish considering the fact that he's a detective and he looks into murders and whatnot. He's squeamish about blood, like he faints every 30 seconds.
I actually think he's probably one of the bravest movie characters ever.
I think he is too, because he overcomes his fear.
He's constantly terrified, but he keeps doing it.
Right.
You know, I mean, every single thing that he sees, you know, either disgusts him or terrifies him, but he keeps going. He, at no point does he just get on a horse and go, I'm out of here. I'm going back to New York.
He does toward the end, but not because he's afraid. It's because he's out of evidence, and you know, there are no other strings for him to pull, basically.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he doesn't leave out of his own fear.
And it's a Tim Burton movie. You don't want to pull strings because there's something disgusting tied to the other end.
Most likely.
Yeah, like a bug with a person's face on it or something.
Okay.
It's something Tim Burton-y.
Something you don't want anything to do with.
But this is actually, for a Tim Burton movie, it's actually tame. And I think that's why I like it. Like, I like this better than people can stone me for saying this. I like this movie more than Beetlejuice. I do. I do
too, actually.
Yeah,
so I'm with you.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and fortify the windows because people are starting to gather outside because they just heard that.
Just wait a week. Some idiot will make Sleepy Hollow the musical, and everyone will forget about it.
Well, Beetlejuice I think it just has the power of nostalgia for a lot of people of our generations.
Yeah.
Is that that was the first time they were really exposed to Tim Burton as a kid. That this was actually, besides Batman, this was one of my first Tim Burton movies. This was definitely the first time I ever saw Johnny Depp on screen. Yeah. Because his movies were a little too grown up for me to watch when I was that age.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, this was my...
Well, and it's obviously, and I think unarguably, Tim Burton is a much more mature filmmaker by the time he made this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And even...
Because there's 11 years worth of difference.
Yeah. And even, Ed Wood, which is a much better movie than
any other Tim Burton. That's the best Tim Burton movie.
In my opinion, it is.
Hands down.
It's just incredible, the cast. And that's one thing, too, that Tim Burton's always... one of his strengths is casting his movies. Mm-hmm. And in this movie and Ed Wood and others, he does a very good job of filling all of the small roles with people who can take a small role and really go with it, really run with it. And this, with something like this, when you've got, Jeffrey Jones and Michael Gambon,
you normally don't have so many power hitters in such small roles.
Right.
Like, the town elders play a decent and very important role in the mystery surrounding the Headless Horseman, no doubt. But even coming down to Brom, Casper Van Diem, Christina Ricci's boyfriend, he was actually...
Wait, how are you saying it?
Brom?
No, Casper Van what?
Dien.
It's Dean.
Is it?
Yeah, Casper
I thought
Van
it was
Dien.
D-I-E.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I've been mispronouncing his name. My bad.
That's why he didn't
Casper
call it.
Van Dien.
That's why he didn't return any of those messages you left him.
Oh,
You said his
damn, I
name wrong.
blew it. Sorry, Casper. Well, he's not listening to me anymore. I had no idea that's how you pronounce his name. That's
He was on
news to
Twin
me.
Peaks.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Well, then I will be sure to pronounce his name right from now on.
In that other movie, he was in that movie.
That other thing, with the sharks or whatever.
Oh God, I wish.
No, but the story about him, Casper Van Dien, when he's fighting the Horseman for the first time.
Darth Maul.
Yes, when he's fighting Darth Maul and he gets cut in half.
The first Headless Horseman ever on screen to not actually have like a distorted torso because they didn't have to put the costume over his head.
They put green material on his head.
It was the first time they got to do it digitally.
Well, because that's what you see.
Okay, you talk for a while because Lisa Marie is going to be on screen.
Yeah, she's about to float, and then you get the nice downward angle on her chest. Gotcha. So, so Casper Van Dien, despite being in kind of a minor role, when he was fighting against Darth Maul on the bridge, he broke his finger and it instantly turned black. But he didn't stop. He kept going and he immediately reset it because he was afraid that scene would be cut if he...
Look at all that talent.
She looks smart in that corset.
Man, there's so much talent on screen right now. Two big old buckets of talent.
God.
I'm sorry. It's his girlfriend, and I'm going to show off your talents, darling.
Yes, let's show everyone how
Both of
smart
them.
and witty you are. That's exactly what's happening.
And it is a shame too because she's a talented actress.
Well,
she's really kind of known for these two movies, and in one she plays a weird alien.
Yeah.
And in this one she plays a person who's dressed incredibly inappropriately for the times.
Well, yeah, that just goes back to the whole how men think about women like Godfrey, the comedian, was talking about Anna Kournikova in very similar fashion. He was like, she's the worst tennis player in the world, but my God, she's so beautiful. She could literally show up without her racket, and we'd be like, where's your racket, Anna? And she's all, I didn't bring it. I'm Anna Kournikova. So I think
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Lisa Marie's got a similar vibe.
That would make sports make more sense to me. You know?
if tennis players didn't have rackets?
Well, no, if it was just like, okay, you're really good at hitting a ball over there, but she's really hot, so she wins. Mm-hmm. There we go.
That's how the point system works.
But that isn't fair. Well, neither is life, sucker.
Get over it.
As they said in the IT crowd, grow a pair of tits.
Oh, God.
Well, if I did have a pair, I'd let a guy have a go on him for a ride in a helicopter.
Wow. Ugh.
I love that show.
I don't even know what to do with you right now. Yeah. But yeah, so going back to Ichabod's fear and him overcoming it, they actually make a point of that because Ichabod does, he thinks he sees the horseman, but it turns out Caspar Van Dien and the other guys of Sleepy Hollow are playing a trick. And going to what you said, Jason, about him having a distorted torso, this guy on a horse is chasing Ichabod through the western woods and throws a pumpkin at his head, and he's so scared that he passes out in the woods. Yeah. And then you come to find it's Caspar Van Dien on a horse.
Yeah, well, he did get hit by the pumpkin, too.
No, he did, which had to hurt. And it was on fire.
Yeah, and, pumpkins are kind of heavy. That was a good throw.
Yeah, luckily it was hollowed out, so it wasn't a kill shot. Yeah. But, yeah.
He just wanted to make some etchings and sell it to ye old fail army.
But you come to find the guys of the town are just pranking Ichabod because Christina Ricci is clearly taking a liking to him.
Because they don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, it's $17.99. They don't have iPhones.
Because those guys aren't farmers. So it's sort of like,
and they
all
live
right.
in a farming village.
Yeah, so it's like, well, it's 8 a.m. What do you want to do? Drink?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like a plan. But yeah, so he thinks he sees the horseman and discovers no, he's being pranked. But then he sees the horseman for real with our next murder of Magistrate Phillips.
Yeah, yeah.
Who, another fun fact, Tim Burton was the one who insisted that the heads of the victims spin around like they were on like tops before the victims fell to the ground.
Which is kind of interesting because if you had a sharp enough blade, that might actually happen.
You have to wonder, like if it's hot enough too, because that's one thing that
they should have done that on MythBusters.
That would have been cool.
That would have been a great MythBusters. Could you? Oh man.
Well, does
Jamie and Adam, come on,
guys, come back. We miss you. Determine this mystery for us. But you come to find too that since the horseman is coming up from hell to commit these murders, his sword is white hot, and that's why none of the victims are ridiculous messes of blood because their wounds are instantly cauterized.
I don't know why, but you saying, the horseman coming up from hell just made me think of the Ninth Gate, and I got sad.
Shut up.
No, because that was a movie that was totally ruined by, because that was a good Johnny Depp movie. Yeah. Until it wasn't.
Yeah, that one did take a
until
turn.
It was just,
kind of like Rear Window, not Rear Window. What was the something window?
I don't know.
He was a writer out in the woods. They completely ripped off a Fight Club.
I have no idea who was in it. Johnny
Depp and the guy from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Pete, the tall one.
John Leguizamo?
No, what are you talking? Okay, don't worry about it. The Secret Window. Johnny Depp is in that movie where he's a writer and he's like freshly divorced or something like that. He goes out to his cabin in the woods to write his next big novel. Yeah, his name is Mort Rainey or Ramey, something like that. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But
it's that was. I think you can sort of tell the difference between a Roman Polanski and a Tim Burton, as though there aren't a million differences, but like Tim Burton, I think really likes the occult. Yeah. And,
Roman Polanski's kind of taking a whack at it.
Well, Roman Polanski thinks it's all stupid.
Yeah.
He thinks the occult is dumb, but he made that movie because it was interesting, but it's like it comes across as, just, I don't know.
I'm with you.
I don't want to talk about the Ninth Gate anymore.
It's all good. So, yeah, you have young Masbeth and Ichabod teaming up because Masbeth has sworn his service to avenge his father, as we discussed, and the town thinks that after Ichabod sees the horseman for real, because he does bug out. He's like, it was a headless horseman. I saw him. He's real. And he's just having a full-on panic attack. And Michael Gambon's like, yeah, we told you about that, whatever. And so they think that he just bolts the next morning, but then he comes down from his room and he says, I've decided to overcome my fears and I'm going to solve this mystery. It's going to happen. And then they go out to the woods and find this really horrifying witch.
Yeah, and I think the witch, if there was a flaw in the movie, if there was something I could take out of the movie, it would.
She just wasn't necessary, really.
Even if you're going to have the witch in there, and you're right, I don't think she was necessary. I'm okay with it, but the really crappy CG eye popping thing that she does,
that was pretty hokey.
And it's sort of like it's the only time in the entire movie that I'm taken out of the movie. I don't know. See, since I saw this when I was a little girl, it was an intense moment for me because being such a rampant chicken, I had an issue with it where she jumps out and something bad is going to happen because they go into the witch's den it's they build it up. It's very obvious, but she's the only purpose she serves is to tell Ichabod where she can find the grave of the horseman. Right. Yeah.
You seek the warrior bathed in blood, the Headless Horseman. Follow the Indian trail to where the sun dies to the tree of the dead, and that's where they find his gravesite.
Why couldn't she just speak normally?
You gotta wonder.
You seek the
there's
warrior bathed in blood.
There's this really weird tree. Look there.
Yeah. If you go about 10 yards that a ways.
And she lives in the woods, so that's my other issue with her. She lives there. You'd think that she already has that knowledge because she knows of the horseman. She knows his whole deal, but she has to summon a demon or a spirit of some sort to possess her and tell Ichabod this information. It was just a little unnecessary.
Being a witch has got to be a weird job to get into.
I suppose. What's the vetting process?
I don't know.
There's no Hogwarts in this universe that we're aware of.
And she's got to wake up every morning and light all those damn candles. Yep. And then,
I wonder how many fires she's had in that cave.
Oh, God, she's probably had so many fires.
And she's got all those dead animals that she's got to cook, into her little spells and whatnot. Yeah, who knows? I guess you have to be really good at, decapitating or
then maybe that's why we
dismembering animals.
We don't have people like that anymore because we have TV. Because she would be watching daytime TV right now, sitting on a couch.
She'd be watching Lifetime for women. Yeah,
she'd be watching her stories.
Can't you see? I am watching my stories. Merlene, I don't have time to tell you where this horseman is.
Merlene, my stories is on.
But so
where's the damn remote, Merlene?
But so we get to the tree of the dead, and somebody is following Ichabod and young Masbeth.
This tree looks like it's from a Tim Burton movie.
That's exactly what it looks like. Oh my God, if I saw it anywhere else, you wouldn't, because it's not.
If you're not in Tim Burton's head, you're not going to see it.
Nope. But it turns out that Christina Ricci follows the guys out into the woods, and they get a little interrupted because they're about to kiss. And Ichabod's like, why did you come? This is dangerous. And she goes, well, nobody else would go with you. And, it's just a sweet little moment where she follows him to go help him. And they're about to smooch. But then young Masbeth is like, hey, I found that gnarly tree the witch was talking about. You guys want to check this out?
No time for love, Dr. Jones.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
You call him Dr. Crane.
And and here we go with the most blood splattery moment of the entire movie where Ichabod is hacking at the tree. And it's very obvious after the first couple of chops that, yes, this is a tree that is just bursting with blood.
Yeah.
But he keeps hacking at it and he keeps getting, and that's all Tim Burton, just spraying Johnny Depp with blood. So, he gets covered and there are all these heads in the base of the tree.
Yeah.
And we come to find this is the storage unit for the horseman's decapitated victims.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Absolutely.
It makes total sense. Why is he doing it again?
This is how the whole mystery ties together. So you start to get little bits and pieces. You think the town elders are kind of sketchy, and they are, because they were all drawn into this plot against their will. Because it turns out Miranda Richardson is the bad guy. You think it's Baltus Van Tassel, Katrina's dad, Michael Gambon, but it's not. He's the red herring, Louise.
Yeah.
You're the evil butler. But he's there. The murderer was me. But so Miranda Richardson, it turns out, was the little girl in the beginning of the film where they're describing the horseman and how he died. She's the little girl who snapped the twig and got him killed. She then dug up his grave and took his head and sold her soul to the devil so that she could gain revenge over the Van Tassel family. So Dumbledore and all those guys, because they moved into her childhood home when her father died and their landlord evicted them. And that was Van Tassel, the first man who was murdered. So she's basically climbing the social ladder to gain her revenge and make herself mistress of all the wealth of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
And so
it's a lot of wealth. I mean, that's
so much in this little farming village.
There's a lot of money in Sleepy Hollow. I can totally see this.
You got to wonder. But so here's my question about the tree. The tree is obviously, like I said, the storage unit for all the decapitated heads, but it's the portal to hell.
Yeah.
And the horseman goes in and out of it, and he's clearly going down into hell when he jumps into it. So why aren't the heads going with him? Why are they in the tree? I don't understand the logic behind that one.
There's not a lot of logic. It's one of those things that would probably be.
Don't pull at that thread too hard.
Don't pull
Once
at
again,
it. Just
disgusting
enjoy
heads.
it. Yeah, just enjoy it.
But yeah, and I see what you mean, Jason. You have to admire Ichabod for his ballsiness, because the horseman leaps out of the tree and Ichabod jumps on his horse to pursue him and see who he's going to go kill next.
Because my ass would be out of there.
Oh, yeah. He's out.
Wait a minute. If I solve this mystery, do I get like millions and millions? I don't. What do I get? I get nothing?
I get the satisfaction of knowing that I solved a mystery with science and logic. Not worth it.
I'm going to leave this to the Royal Society and leave.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you don't really see the logic in why the horseman is killing the people that he is at first. It all comes together later in the movie when Miranda Richardson, Lady Van Tassel, reveals her wicked plan. But this was one of the rougher scenes in the movie for me to watch, because there's this nice little family. It's a midwife and her husband and their little redheaded boy, and they all get brutally murdered in their home.
Yeah.
And it's just so, once again, it's the baby being stabbed in utero. It's just so unnecessary to keep killing all these little children.
Yeah. And I think that sort of plays into what I said before about how I like the movie, but I don't love it.
Right.
Because it's like there's a fairly...
see here, when the fire jumps, do you see the faces in the fire?
No, I didn't see.
Yeah, when the midwife's husband, he's sitting in front of the hearth, when the fire blazes right before the horseman busts into their cottage, there are little faces that they CGI'd into the fire.
I didn't see.
Yep. That's one thing Tim Burton snuck in there.
So Darth Maul is going to just kill the crap out of everybody.
Well, the husband puts up a pretty decent fight, considering, the horseman is a professional mercenary.
So did Liam Neeson.
Oh, too soon.
Come on. Poor Ray Park.
Oh, poor guy gets a bad rap.
Yeah, especially because he's not the voice of anything.
Yeah, that's true.
You never hear him.
Well, it's kind of like... the sword masters in Princess Bride and stuff, they are two of the most successful actors and like
it's a job.
Stunt coordinators.
It's a job.
But they're also on screen. Like one of them was one of the sand people in Star Wars. I can't remember which one right now. But yeah, it's just these people who make these movies as iconic as they are, like, because The Horseman was great.
Yeah.
And Christopher Walken's in the movie for about 30 seconds. He doesn't really have a big role to play. He just rides around on his horse and screams, like we mentioned.
Yeah.
Ray is doing all the hard work here.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there are, in the film business, and I don't think it's so much the case anymore, but for years and years, the film business was a collection of tradespeople and craftspeople who... Right. You never, the movie going public never knew their names, but they saw their work in movie after movie after movie. And oftentimes,
just didn't realize it.
Yeah. And oftentimes these guys were in so many, they had so many more credits than, most actors ever get.
Oh yeah. It's a laundry list of projects because they're so specialized in what they do that, that's the first guy you call if you want sword play. That's the first guy you call if you want, like Jackie Chan doing his own stunts. Like, they just built concepts and movies around him because of his skill set.
Yeah, or you look at people like Ken Adam, who did the production design for the Bond movies. I mean, the Bond movies were iconic, but most people never heard his name. But he was more a reason for making it iconic than most of the people. He was just as important as Sean Connery was.
Yeah,
in making those movies as memorable. The things that they spoof in Austin Powers aren't Sean Connery. They're spoofing Ken Adam.
And and that's the thing about the magic of Hollywood, I guess, is that they're building these grand illusions. You don't see the lighting technician, you don't see the boom operator, you don't see the hundreds of people that it takes to even make a set or get it to the point where the actor can, come out and do his thing. There's so much there's so much done before the lights go up. Like it's crazy. So that's why we have such an obsession with celebrities, because those are the ones we focus on in the story.
Yeah.
So it's not, you're not sitting there going, God, that boom operator just killed it in this movie. It's just not the logical way to go.
No, yeah, you're never going to say that. And it is a shame because there's so many hardworking people in Hollywood that they never get the credit that they're owed.
Right.
And you have so many stories of actors who treat them like garbage.
Yeah.
You know.
And I can't fathom that.
I've been on set before and seen really talentless hacks, but they were the people who, when they came on set, everybody would yell talent on set,
Right.
and that always got so,
I'm the talent.
Yeah, that always irritated me so much because there
already was talent on set.
Yeah, there was so much talent on the set, and these guys didn't add anything to it. Anyway, that's my rant about the film biz.
No, I understand. I'm with you. But yep, here comes our other Darth Maul moment where Casper Van Dien gets cut in half. And what's crazy about this moment is that Brom wasn't even supposed to die. He doesn't know anything about the conspiracy with Widow Winship, because the whole reason Van Tassel was going to die in the first place is because, Van Tassel and Van Garrett, all those people were going to die is because they were the people who wronged Miranda Richardson when she was a kid, but come to find that Van Garrett married the Widow Winship in secret, and she finds out from the midwife that the widow was pregnant with Van Garrett's child, who also would have inherited his fortune. Yeah. So it all comes together in the end when she explains how all these people tie together. So the reason why the midwife and her family had to die is because she tells Miranda Richardson this big secret right in front of her husband. What a goose! So that means the whole family gets slaughtered, and you don't even ever hear that the kid knew the secret, but the horseman kills him anyway. Yeah. After watching or hearing his dad die, watching his mother die through the floorboards, and then just being murdered himself. Yeah. But Brom was not on the kill list, but he kept engaging with the horseman to the point where Ray just got tired of his shit and cut him in half.
At a certain point, it's like, dude, I don't want to fight you, dude. Come on, man. Back it off, man.
They had to find a way to
Sir, put the blade down. Sir, put it down.
I want to speak to your manager.
Sir, I'm authorizing myself to use deadly force.
What's on you? This is my beanbag gun.
Yeah, to use my new beanbag gun.
to subdue you. But yeah, but they had to knock Brom out of the way because he's the only thing standing between Ichabod and Katrina getting together. And that just has to happen in Sleepy Hollow. There's got to be a little side story of romance, but and Ichabod faints for roughly the 4.5 time. I don't know how many times he faints in this movie.
I don't really know if I would call that one a faint. He had just been stabbed.
Yeah, he passes. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll give you that one. He passes out.
Yeah, that wasn't a wuss faint. That was,
Well, you're right, because he does get clocked in the head with a pumpkin, which may have given him a mild concussion. You don't know. Yeah. So, okay. But that's where you find out that the blade is cauterized, because Ichabod does get stabbed right near his heart. Yeah. Luckily, he's not killed. But the doctor's like, oh, wow. He should be bleeding all over the place, but the wound is
because that's
barely bleeding and it's cauterized. That's crazy. I don't understand how that works. Yeah. Lucky for him, I guess. And they don't really look into it.
It's almost like he used a lightsaber.
Oh my God.
A fun fact about the Iron Maiden.
That's what it's called. I could not for the life of me think of the name of that contraption.
Yeah. The Iron Maiden shows up in so many movies. And
yes, it's even when people don't know the name, they've seen the Iron Maiden.
Yeah. It's but it was never used. It was never real. It was actually invented. I think it was invented. I think the Victorians invented it.
Huh.
But not. It literally just is something. I'll have to go back and look.
Like a cautionary device. Like we'll throw you in here.
No, it was more like a thing to show and tell people, look how horrible this is. People used to use this on people. It was like Ripley's Believe It or Not stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, the Iron Maiden wasn't actually used because if you think about it, it would just kill people. It's not really a. Yeah,
it's not really a torture device. It's more
it's a kill you painfully, yes, but it's going to kill you real fast.
Yeah, because you're literally getting punctured all over your body.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, we're going back to how inappropriate Katrina is, because she's just sitting in Ichabod's room. He's passed out, and I guess she's watching over him to make sure he doesn't die in his sleep.
Yeah, she looks about 13.
She really does.
Yeah.
But because now she's in her 30s, I want to say.
Sure. And of course, in 1799, if she had been 13,
it wouldn't have mattered.
Really wouldn't have mattered. Yeah.
Women were still kind of bestowed to men, as we've discussed on the show before.
Yeah, and he is a doctor.
He's got good prospects.
I mean.
Well, he's a detective. He's not technically.
Oh, that's right.
He's not a doctor. Yeah. He's got some medical skill, like the autopsies and whatnot. He's kind of a scientist. He's a man who wears many hats.
Whatever.
How about it? So yeah, she's just in his room with him, and
he went on to invent the science of psychiatrics.
Oh God.
And his family passed it down from generation to generation.
Sweet Jesus. Yeah. I'm not doing this.
Except for one of the grandkids who said, my great-grandfather invented psychiatrics, but he was also a detective, so I will become a cop.
Oh God.
See, so that's why Fraser's dad was a cop.
Yep. No, you're really making this work. I'm so proud of you. It's not even a stretch or anything.
No, it's really not.
No, it's seriously not. But yeah, so Ichabod wakes up and Katrina's in his room and he's talking about, oh yes, there's this lovely young woman. They keep like baiting each other with these little flirtations. She's like, oh, is there nothing you'll take from Sleepy Hollow that was worth coming here, Ichabod? And he's like, yeah, you kissed me. That was pretty awesome.
Some?
Yeah. There you go.
So, some?
Anyway, then he wakes up and, he's expecting Katrina and it's her stepmom, Miranda Richardson. All these women are just in these corsets that are just vava-vooming the hell out of their figures. So they're all rocking it, I gotta say. But
well, in 1799, women just showed it off.
I guess so.
That was just how it worked back then.
I suppose it's like you got to know what's being bestowed to you in the marriage.
Yeah, but I mean, again, though, that's part and parcel of the Hammer horror movies, because in those movies it was full of countesses and nobility and village girls, and they were always showing it off.
Right.
And it didn't make any sense in those movies either, but it sells tickets.
Yeah, it does. Well, same concept with making Johnny Damn Depp Ichabod Crane. That's going to get women to come to the theater so quickly.
Yeah. They didn't cast somebody who looked like Ichabod Crane from the cartoon.
Precisely. I mean, it's a selling point. What do you expect? But yeah, he's a very good looking man. I'm just going to stare at him for a second. You say things now, Jason.
That's the little boy.
No.
Why are you staring at
the little boy's in the room. That's not who I'm looking at the moment. But anyway, Johnny's pacing around and he's really trying to figure out what the link is to all of these murders. And the way he writes his notes becomes very relevant. He's writing these little thoughts of his in his ledger. Five bodies.
Him the tax man.
5 bodies to 4 graves. The town elders points to Baltus Van Tassel, and that's not even the conclusion that he's necessarily drawn yet. But then Katrina gets angry with him later because the way that it reads in his ledger, it looks like he's accusing her father of puppeteering the horseman.
That's who they should have gotten to play Ichabod Crane.
Who?
Matthew McConaughey.
Why?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking True Detective. Yeah.
Why? I've never seen True Detective, so I'm not following.
The first season is excellent. Don't watch any of it past that.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, the first season is fantastic.
Well, I mean, all I can imagine is kind of like the Matt Damon impression where he hello, Mr. Burton. I think today's scene would be an excellent opportunity for me to take my shirt off. I can't imagine it being. That would ruin the movie. I swear to God.
I love the work they did in that town.
That I know,
the
it's so
and the
detailed.
Production design is so good.
Yeah, every single especially the scene with the notary Hardenbrook with Michael Gough, because he has a surprisingly small role. He speaks only like once or twice.
He was pretty old by the time they made this movie.
He was. He I believe he passed away not too.
Yeah, because he was retired.
Yeah, he was up there for sure.
Yeah.
But
it's Alfred.
Yeah, yep, it's Alfred, and we love us some Alfred. But Michael Gough is just the best. But he's got that great spooky line because he's clearly blind in one of his eyes. And when Ichabod still doesn't believe in the horseman, he's very eerily seeing is believing, and it's just well, he can get away with it because he's Michael Go. He's awesome, but this is where Ichabod finally puts most of the puzzle together, because the whole opening of the movie is actually Van Garrett signing his last will and testament and holding a woman's hand, and you don't know that it's him yet. You don't know how all this ties together.
Point of order: as a genealogist, I've read a lot of wills from this era. Ooh. And what I can tell you is that I've never seen one that was actually written in a way that any human being could actually read the damn thing.
Yeah, it's not legible.
They're never legible.
No, it's like
I would love to see one that was written like that. Where look, I can actually tell what the words say.
Holy God, like Old English. People think that Shakespeare is Old English, and I'm like, no, it's not. You wouldn't be able to read Old English. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Why is Congress spelt with 2 F's? Congress.
Yep, that would confuse the hell out of people who haven't studied it. But yes, it's a very clearly written will. Whoever drew it up had just excellent penmanship, and they obviously were from 1999. Yeah. So that was helpful. Otherwise, Johnny wouldn't have been able to read it. So they had to work it out somehow.
But so we do have the mystery coming full circle, and it is
not full circle quite yet, because Johnny lands on the incorrect suspect. Ichabod is sitting there and. He is piecing it together. He finds out Van Garrett fought with his son. Turns out they were fighting because Van Garrett Sr. was bestowing his wealth to his new wife and his other child, and you have to assume that's what the Van Garretts were fighting about. Yeah. Then all 4 of them were murdered, and the man who witnessed the signature, Jonathan Masbeth, a.k.a. Ichabod's assistant's dad. Yeah. He was Van Garrett's servant, and since he witnessed the will being signed, he also had to die. Yeah, and that's the first body that Ichabod's looking at in the woods, and so then Ichabod jumps to the conclusion: okay, well, that means that the next of kin, since everybody's related in Sleepy Hollow, the next of kin to Van Garrett would be Baltus Van Tassel. Yeah, and so that's why he thinks that Dumbledore murdered all those people.
Baltus, that's a good name. That's a name that needs to come back.
Everyone is something Van something in this movie. Brom is like Brom Van something. They're all Vans. I'm not really sure why.
Well, that's one of those things about American history. A lot of people sort of confused. It's like, we've all heard of the Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yes.
They're not Dutch. They're not in any way, shape, or form Dutch.
Then why are they called Dutch?
It's Pennsylvania Deutsch. They're Germans.
Really?
Yeah.
Fun fact. I didn't know that.
And so, like, when you see a town like this, and it's like, oh, they're all Germans. It's like,
very cool.
Yeah, that these were totally German settlers who established roots and now are killing each other.
Oh, really? See, I thought I ran into all the Germans at Oktoberfest up in Helen, Georgia.
No,
last weekend.
No, well, and what you don't see in this is that actually Sleepy Hollow was actually colonized by French settlers, and the German settlement next to it eventually sort of expanded and pushed all the French people out.
Nice little history lesson
there.
there.
It happens.
There you go.
Yeah. But the Italians were helping them, but they didn't really contribute very much.
You know your own history,
and for some reason, the Japanese were involved. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so another very brave moment for Ichabod where and I guess they just had to find a reason to get them to move the bed. So he's back in his quarters, which Katrina's just sitting there in a strange man's room. And he's even like, Katrina, why are you in my room? She goes, because it is yours. And it's just very like, hello, okay. Mr. Crane. Like, cool.
Okay.
A girl delivered herself to my doorstep. That works. So, but he
happens to me all the time, Jerry Smith.
I'm my best friend, Jerry Smith. I love casting witchy spells with you. But so Ichabod jumps up on the chair when he sees this giant tarantula crawling around his room. Yeah. And so the young Masbeth has to move the bed, and you come to find there's this sort of pentagrammic-ish symbol written in chalk underneath his bed. And Masbeth says that it's the evil eye, and that means that somebody is casting spells against Ichabod. Yeah. So they think it's an evil thing, but that turns into a bit of a twist in the plot because you find out it's Katrina writing all these symbols, and she's
the good witch.
Yes, she's the good witch.
She's the good witch.
Only bad witches are ugly.
Yeah.
But so she's actually casting these charms and whatnot to protect Ichabod because she loves him.
Which, I want to go back and read the Washington Irving story.
I do too.
Because I'd actually like to know how much, and I'm sure not much, but I would like to know how much of the original story made it into
I would imagine not much. Like I said, the horseman is kind of the through line in this version where it's not that focused on him. He's just
no, it's really not.
He's part of Lady Van Tassel's plan to gain wealth.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not called Headless Horseman. Yeah, it's called Sleepy Hollow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a soap opera about a little town called Sleepy Hollow.
Right. It is a soap opera. Yeah. And you come to find also part of the twist is that Ichabod discovers Lady Van Tassel is sleeping with the Reverend Steamwick, one of the town elders. And that's not Jeffrey Jones's type at all. So I don't know why he's sleeping with her.
He's playing against type.
Yeah. Hey, it was a stretch role.
God.
He challenged himself.
Phrasing. And also, you know, if the witch is cutting her hand,
I don't understand that either. Do these people not understand that, you know, if you stub your toe in 1799, you're going to die? Yeah.
Maybe they don't care. Maybe that's it. It's like,
well, she's a witch. So that's what you don't know yet is that Lady Van Tassel is also a witch because and the reason why she was evicted from the cottage where the Van Tassels ended up taking their home is because her father died and her mother was suspected of witchcraft, so no one in Sleepy Hollow would take them in. So they grew up as outcasts in the woods, and their mother died soon after. It's very tragic, but it turns out their mother was a witch, and the sister, you don't know what happened to her, but it turns out she is the witch that Ichabod runs into when he's looking for the Tree of the Dead.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, that's Lady Van Tassel's sister. Yeah, because they were both witches. They both have witch powers, but one of them remained an outcast in the woods and decided to live.
That would have been an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
No, I think I'll stay here. I rather like all this filth.
Eat my crow feet.
But they don't have filth in the town. Well, I like my filth.
Bring out your dead. But yeah, so they are sisters, and actually Lady Van Tassel murders her sister for helping Ichabod and young Masbeth find the grave of the horseman and kind of unearth her plot.
Well, it's sort of like Leela in that one episode of Futurama. I mean, after you commit your first murder, you got to keep killing people to cover it up.
It's easier and easier.
It gets easier towards the end.
Yep.
You know, next time you feel like killing someone, just chew some gum.
Sure, because that's the same. But yeah, right here is where you see Lady Van Tassel is heating up some soup or something, and Ichabod is just having a normal conversation with her. Hey, have you seen Katrina? Where's she at? And there's this nervous moment where the Lady Van Tassel's saying to him, "Oh, Constable, you haven't asked me how I hurt my hand since yesterday." And then she just gets all up in his face. She's like, "I know you saw me in the woods with the Reverend. You can't tell my husband." And so, I mean, what does she really expect to happen? She doesn't. Yeah, you would think that her next logical step would be to get the horseman to murder Ichabod because he knows that secret. Yeah. And she's got all of the town elders under lock and key basically for different reasons because it turns out the doctor is sleeping with the servant girl of the Van Tassel house. And he's married, so he's cheating on his wife with the servant girl. Reverend Steamwick gets to sleep with Lady Van Tassel, so that's why he stays quiet. Yeah. Notary Hardenbrook is just afraid. Yeah. So she's got him under her boot with that.
Jeffrey Jones is like, well, what do I get out of this? Well, you get to have sex with her. All right.
Cool.
Wait, do I not get murdered? Well, we'll see about that. Okay, I'm in.
He does get murdered, but not by the horseman.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So all the town elders bite it because you don't even think about it when you're in Notary Hardenbrook's. That's his last scene in the film because what just happened is Baltus Van Tassel busted in and he's like, "Oh, Notary Hardenbrook hanged himself in the middle of the night." I guess he just couldn't take the pressure of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
So out he goes. Out Michael Van goes. But
No. No.
I made me laugh.
No, let's just keep rolling.
So anyhow, Michael Gambon.
Gambon.
Whatever.
It's not Gambon.
David Carradine. I can't pronounce anything right. So that English degree was absolutely useless.
Well, you had an English degree, not a British degree. So,
this is true. Yeah, okay, so Michael Gambon.
Gambon. There we are.
Thinks that he sees the horseman kill his wife.
Yeah. But he killed her.
Yes, he rides up to the church because now all of a sudden the entire town hates Ichabod.
Well, that has to happen in a movie like this. But
why though? What has he done to deserve the entire town's hate?
Well, he's the outsider. You know, it's like as bad as everything was when you got here, everything got worse. You're the outsider. It's in all these movies. Eventually, it comes to that.
It's like, oh no, the murders that were already happening before you got here are continuing. I don't know. But so this
guys-
is where we find out that the horseman is Highlander
Yeah.
because he cannot enter the hallowed ground of the
Yeah.
church. So there's that. But all the townspeople are shoving each other, panicking in the church because the horseman is coming after Michael Gambon
There we are.
and looking to behead him, and they assume that Lady Van Tassel is dead.
Yeah.
Because, oh, your father saw the horseman come toward me with his sword and his sheath, but Baltus didn't stay to watch. He just ran off. So that, I guess she knew it. She had a good beat on him because that's a titular part of the plan. I mean, if he didn't run away, what then? Would the horseman just have killed him and then she would have kept on with the plan? I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you're watching it, you're not supposed to be analyzing it. You're supposed to just be
That's
enjoying
true. We've
it.
been over that.
And if it's a good enough movie, you can save the analysis for later. I think that's one reason why. It's like I was telling you before the show. You know, my friend Adam, he has one of his favorite movies is Black Swan.
Right.
And he's only seen it once. And he absolutely loved the movie, and he loved it so much that he said he never wants to watch it again because he knows if he watches it again, one, he's not going to enjoy it as much, but two, he's going to start picking it apart.
Because hindsight is horrifying.
Yeah.
The subsequent viewing would ruin
Yeah,
the film. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, there are very few movies that get better with subsequent viewing.
All right, and we get a bunch of death really quickly here. And Michael Gambon goes out in a very gnarly fashion in this scene. So he finally figures out that there's some sort of conspiracy going on, that the town elders have been conspiring behind his back because the Reverend is so ready to just throw him out of the church and give him to the horseman to be the horseman's next victim. But so Jeffrey Jones murders the doctor by bashing him in the head with a crucifix.
Yeah.
A heavy wooden... people just get hit in the head a lot.
Yeah.
A cross, sorry. Yeah. With a heavy wooden cross. And then Jeffrey Jones is shot by Michael Gambon, who proceeds to a window, which when you're the one that the bad guy's after, don't stand near glass. That's just a bad idea in general.
Well, you know, he was probably not in his right mind by that moment.
I would imagine not. He just murdered
Well, it's
somebody.
Michael Gambon. He was probably a little bit.
It's possible. But what's great about this is you come to find that the horseman was not just a Hessian mercenary. He was also a professional javelin thrower.
Yeah, he was. Well, apparently when you become a hellspawn, you know, evil being,
You get special powers.
yeah, you know, he's also really good at basketball. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, he can do anything. It's Ray Park.
Yeah. But yeah, he basically just gets this picket off the fence and literally throws it like 50 yards.
Yeah, with a rope attached.
With a rope attached, it goes through a glass window and impales Michael Gambon. Like the velocity that he's got to be working with is insane.
He yanks it back really hard, which to me, it feels like it would have just pulled it right out of him again, and he would have ended up with a bloody stick. Going, damn it! I really thought that was going to work.
No, because it was a pronged picket, so it wouldn't have done. It was like it was like getting him with a hook and then pulling him backwards. Yeah. So now Michael Gambon has lost his head. He's dead too, and. Poor Christina Ricci's character, she lost both of her parents. Well, her stepmother and her father in one day. Yeah. And the whole thing with her mother is that Miranda Richardson was the nurse to Katrina's mother. Mm-hmm. But instead of helping her get better, she made sure that she died.
Yeah, it was real easy to murder people back then.
Yeah, well, we didn't use DNA in our investigations as long as you weren't there.
Well, think about it. I mean, like, it wasn't until...
I want Johnny Depp to scribble my name in his notebook.
Oh, Lord. That sounds like a metaphor.
No, it doesn't. That's just something girls do in school where they're like daydreaming about a boy.
Can I scribble my name in your notebook?
Ew, no. Why are you ruining this for me?
Yeah. No, yeah, but it was so easy to kill people back then. You didn't even need a headless horseman. All you needed was arsenic.
Yeah, that's true.
Because arsenic is basically untraceable after just a little while, unless you have something like a chemical reagent.
Unless Ichabod Crane has these magical powders
that can
deduce that it was a murder and not an accident.
Yeah.
And if people just start dropping dead for literally no reason, that might have drawn attention faster than playing on the folklore of the horseman. And because the whole town believes in the horseman.
No,
they know him. They all seen him.
Well, and I think it's a case of we paid for the trailer, we're going to shoot the trailer.
He's like their town mascot.
It's like, look, I went through the trouble to get a headless horseman. You think I'm not going to use it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was like half my budget. You guys don't even know.
I had to go out there and dig the damn... No, I'm using the headless horseman. That stays in the plan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But
theatrics are... part of it. Let's just make it dramatic. It's like, what's his face on Bob's Burgers? Carry me off. It'll be more dramatic. I want the horseman to murder everyone. It'll be fantastic. But yeah, so Katrina actually burned all of the evidence that indicated that her father might have been the puppeteer of the horseman, aka the murderer. And now Ichabod's leaving the scene because he doesn't have any evidence, and even the person he was about to accuse was just beheaded.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for him to stay. Christina Ricci's all sad, and Ichabod is sitting there twirling the little cardinal with his optics trick. It's a little circular piece of cardboard, I guess, with a cardinal and a cage painted on either side. And when you spin it together, it looks like the cardinal's in the cage.
Yeah.
Optical illusion.
Yeah.
And this is where he goes full-blown Sherlock, because he's in a carriage and he sees supposedly the body of Lady Van Tassel being taken to the morgue. And the cut on her hand, he can tell from 20 yards away that it hasn't healed since yesterday.
Yeah.
And he says there's no clotting, there's no signs of healing at all. Oh, this isn't Lady Van Tassel, this is someone else. And so that's how he figures it out.
Yeah.
But
I want books that I would love to have a library of these old arcane books where just like somebody sat down and wrote all the rules for how this stuff works. Because in all these movies, there's always books like that where it's like, well, this is the spell that you cast in order to,
protect loved ones. And this is
And I know that because
no reason.
Yeah.
I just have the knowledge.
So, I mean, it's amazing how much of this stuff became a part of culture. And
what stuff? Like the witchcraft or
the witchcraft, and a lot of things that we think of as like being very old and this is old witch. People have been doing this for hundreds and thousands of years, and it's all basically made up in the 1800s.
Right.
It's sort of like druids. We think about druids as being these guys with long beards and the robes and all that stuff, and that was literally a Victorian construct.
So they just Ripley'd the hell out of all of us.
Yeah, that was completely fake. That was made up. It was a new druid thing. That was.
Oh, there goes Christina Ricci. Yeah. She just fainted.
Yeah. Ouija boards. Do you know why a Ouija board is called Ouija?
Do tell.
It was made up.
Okay.
And it was I think it was in the 1800s, but it was made up, and they basically took the French word for yes and the German word for yes and put it together.
Oh my God.
It's right in front of you, and I never knew it until somebody told me.
Yeah, it's blew my mind.
Yeah, it was actually called a Ouija board.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, especially with the hard J, you're not going to pick up on that sometimes.
It's so much of this stuff that you see that it's like, oh yeah, this is, witches, 500 years ago were doing. No,
well, and especially
they weren't.
when you do speak more than one language, because I speak Spanish and I speak English, but sometimes I have a hard time recognizing things like that where it's like, oh yeah, that's from this Spanish word and this English word, and they just blended them. It's Spanglish for whatever.
Yeah.
You have so many extra sounds and pronunciations in your head when you speak more than one language that just doesn't occur to you.
Right.
I don't know. You just splice things together and don't notice. But I didn't pick up on that. That's nuts.
Vampires. I mean, most of what we think of with vampires was made up by the Victorians.
Oh my God, seriously?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at Dracula. So much of vampire lore comes from Dracula, but that was all made up by a Victorian author.
Right.
And so it's like there's all of these things that are, classic horror tropes that we just have this image.
That we're obsessed with because we've made story after story after story about them. And I mean, hell, the Horseman's part of that because he's been in so many different adaptations of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
But that's where we kind of come full circle. We're getting on toward the end of the movie.
Yeah, well, we're at the point where since you won't live, I might as well tell you my plan.
Yeah, it's very Bond villain.
Yeah, come on.
Where Miranda Richardson, she has one last person in her way to inheriting the wealth of the Van Tassels, and that's Katrina. Luckily, Ichabod has figured this out and is rushing to save his lady, and somehow knows that they're at this random windmill.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know either. But the fun trivia that's coming up, he's about to be dragged. There's this big action sequence where the horseman's chasing Ichabod and Katrina through the woods. They're headed toward the Tree of the Dead, and they're in a carriage, and Ichabod's fighting the horseman on top of the carriage, and then at some point the horses break loose, and Ichabod's being dragged through the woods. Apparently Johnny Depp had no issue with that, being dragged by the horses, because the stunt coordinator gave him like some extra padding or something to guard him from...
He had... if I remember what I
was
heard,
it?
it was like he had flak jacket and
Yes, it was
like. I don't like using bulletproof because they're not bulletproof, but it's what people refer to as bulletproof armor on. Yeah.
Well, he was wearing something to protect him from,
Yeah. Doesn't do
being
a lot
dragged.
doesn't do a lot to stop, blunt force trauma.
No,
So,
if the horse kicks you in the head or
you're just as dead.
apparently that wasn't an issue for Johnny. What he was worried about was the horses relieving themselves on him.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I love doing cocaine with you, Tim Burton. Now let's drag me through the woods.
Yep. Well, I think this is after I think this was post-drugs Johnny in 1999 because he had his children and he cleaned up his act once he had his kids.
Oh, okay.
That's why he started making movies like Pirates of the Caribbean and such so that his children could actually watch his films.
Yeah.
Because you don't want your...
Daddy, can we watch Blow?
Yeah, exactly. Daddy, can we watch Ed Wood? Sure, that's probably one of the tamer things that I'm in.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
There's nothing in Ed Wood that's bad.
But yeah, he's played like gangsters and like really serious roles and stuff. So yeah, he started doing more lighthearted stuff so his children could see him in his movies. But it's irrelevant now because they're both basically grown. But either way, this is a really weird point of the movie. Katrina's hearing all about the evil bond plan. Yeah. Because she's just, I'll tell you, I had this guy under my power for this reason. She just gives you, it's just exposition.
I know,
like
it's
filling
like
in all the gaps.
It's almost like Christina Ricci is like, knows that Johnny Depp is coming and I'm just trying to keep her talking.
Yeah, it's like somebody's got to be coming for me. Brahm's dead, so not him. Maybe Ichabod just
I'm going to
figured all
throw
this
you
out.
in this tank and then my sharks are going to come out and eat you.
With laser beams on their heads.
I was doing the live and let die thing.
Are they ill-tempered? And I crossed it into Austin Powers,
Chop.
baby. Yep. You see, the witch in the woods was her sister.
Yeah, and I gotta say, chopping people's heads off, they make it look incredibly easy in this movie.
Yeah.
Like your neck is attached by slightly more than just like a couple of balsa sticks. I mean, it takes a little bit of muscle. That's like
It does take some effort.
Yeah, I mean, there was more than one beheading at the Tower of London where they screwed it up and. You have people running around with their heads still kind of on.
That's why you have nearly headless Nick in Harry Potter. His execution got bungled, so his ghost just has a dangling head.
Had to bring it back to Harry Potter.
Of course I did. I always do.
Yeah.
That's Darth Jader for you.
I've literally been holding back a Community joke the whole time. Christina Ricci.
Oh God, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Hands off,
okay.
Christina Ricci.
No. Oh, I actually like that. Oh, freaking Community. Anyway, so I don't understand the logic here. The heroes of our story, Ichabod has an idea where they're trapped in the windmill. The horseman's coming for Katrina, and he goes, "Oh, climb to the roof! I have an idea!" And they set the place on fire. It's like, let us climb to the roof of this building and burn it down.
This was your idea? Set it on fire.
I'm running with it. Okay.
I mean, I know we'll use science.
Yeah.
Burning,
I don't even know
burning stuff is science.
It's just, it was as scientific as it was going to be back then. But yeah, the horseman is just very athletic and Batman-like in this segment where he just throws a little tied rope around one of the, I can't think of the word.
Cog,
thank you. And it lifts him up. That was just very good thinking on his part. And he just like elevators.
I know, for a guy with no head, he's pretty clever.
Ah. It's not that he has no head; it's just not attached.
That's true. He has a head.
Lady Van Tassel's holding it in her witch bag.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Johnny Depp literally sets the windmill on fire once the horseman has actually reached the top.
Again, apparently the windmill was made of, naphtha-soaked cloth.
Yeah, with enough soap, one can blow up just about anything.
Well, that's the windmill we use to grind up our gunpowder.
Exactly. But they jump to the top and then jump on the windmills to lower themselves back to the ground. But even Ichabod realizes the futility of this plan because they jump down to the ground and little young Masbeth is like, "Is he dead?" Well, that's the problem. He was dead to begin with. And then they just run, gang. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess it was a
windmill friggin' explodes. I mean,
it's like a car in a 70s movie.
It's the most goddamn ridiculous explosion.
A cop must have put a speeding ticket on it because it blew up.
What were they storing in the windmill?
Gunpowder.
Yeah, I mean...
Wile E. Coyote's explosives. Yeah, it was made out of paper. So it just, it freaking explodes. And what kills me is they wait around for the horseman to fall down and then come back out the door. Yeah, he was dead to begin with. Shit, I guess we should peel out, guys. So now there's the big chase scene that we were referring to a minute ago. And, it's cool action. It's fun to watch. There's an exciting couple of minutes while they're trying to get to the Tree of the Dead, but I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish other than let's just get the hell away from the horseman because the head is the key to everything.
Right, yeah.
And the stepmom has it. And if you think about it, it's kind of like, did Evie have to read that book out loud? Did the mom have to go back to the tree?
Right.
She didn't have to, and if she didn't, the horseman probably would have caught up with the three of them and murdered all of them, and then she would have won. Yeah. But no, she's got to go to the tree and try to shoot one of them, and that didn't make any sense. That was like more Bond villain than anything. It's like, oh, I'm returning to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, it's yeah, well, movies do require, there's always suspension of disbelief, and in particular, it's suspension of disbelief in regard to what characters will do when a sane person obviously wouldn't do this.
Right. Like, especially in scary movies. Yeah, if logic was used, then...
You wouldn't have a horror movie.
No, it would never happen.
Horror movies wouldn't exist.
Nope.
Some would. Jaws, I think... Jaws is one of the few movies where everyone in it sort of behaves like a rational actor.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, if they have a motive where it's like corruption, oh, we want money...
Right.
Okay, well, people would do stupid things for money. They do it all the time.
That's true.
But when you have stuff like this, it's just, she's a villain.
You just got to run with it. Yeah.
Why is she doing it? Well, she's the villain. She's got to.
And you find, the horseman, because the horseman gets up on top of the coach first, and then you think that he's in the cab, but no, he's on top of it. It's almost this kind of sticky sequence where he just missed Ichabod with that hot sword of his.
Well, yeah, this is essentially a fight on top of a train.
Yeah, exactly. Seared like tuna steaks.
Yeah, it's like you're still on the train.
Yeah, it seems exciting and awesome at first, but then you're like, oh shit, I'm actually still on a train. That's not a good idea. But yeah, here's where Johnny gets dragged by the horses through the woods. Oh, they almost sliced his crotch off. Oh,
yeah. Do you expect me to talk?
Yeah, it's kind of funny action in a way.
Well, it is, and it's a good action sequence because it doesn't go on too long.
Yeah, it's not like, Peter and the chicken fighting each other for 15 minutes straight. It's not ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, but ultimately, we do bring it around back to, okay, the horseman, so he gets his head back.
Well, the horseman's been a pawn this entire time.
Yeah, but
he's not. Yeah, he's not. I'm sorry.
But I mean, okay, it's like he gets his head back, right? That's what he wants. He wants his head back.
Yeah, that's it.
So he can go back to hell.
I guess. Well, he fits in hell.
Maybe that's it.
I think he'd feel really socially awkward in heaven because he's got the sharp teeth. And now, what I really don't understand is how Daredevil is in hell. Because Daredevil wasn't a Hessian mercenary. He was just the horse of a Hessian mercenary.
It's a really good point.
I don't understand why his horse went with him.
It's funny because when you said Daredevil, I was like, wait, what the?
The horse.
What the hell are you talking
Ben
about?
Ben Affleck? What? No, Ben Affleck is definitely going to hell after Daredevil.
Yeah. Reindeer games? Come on.
That is the movie, which we do not speak of. But
I love to go back in time and go, I have seen the future. This man will be Batman one day. God. No, you lie.
Well,
you lie. That can't be true.
And now they're just running with all these crazy choices for Batman, including Robert Pattinson. So yeah, but yeah, then once again, I can't shoehorn logic into this because the mom shows up and you find out she has a gun, but instead of just shooting her stepdaughter and letting the horseman take care of Ichabod, she's holding Katrina by the hair. Here she is, come and get her. And it's like this could have been resolved so much more quickly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But luckily, the little young ward to Ichabod smacks her in the head, and Ichabod's like, hey, horseman, heads up, and tosses him his skull.
I mean, it's oh, thanks, dude. I've been looking for this.
Thanks, bro. All right, I'll let your girlfriend live now. That's cool.
All right, I'm out of here. Oh, God, that feels good.
And
That's
I love
so
that,
better.
He fits his skull on top of his torso because he doesn't have a neck yet.
Yeah.
Like his neck was never part of it. He had to grow a neck.
He had to grow a neck.
He had to grow a neck and like get all the flesh on his head. It's just like, and that was pretty gruesome to watch when I was a kid. I did not enjoy watching.
And the skull's teeth seem to sort of change.
Yeah, the skull seems to have regular kind of teeth.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're sharp again when he's the horseman.
Yeah.
When he fully regenerates like Emotep.
Yeah, I would, if there was a headless dude whose head was growing back, I don't think I would take the time to kiss my girl at that point. I would probably...
And show, yeah, because you have to assume that he might still hurt her.
Yeah, he might still kill all of you.
Yeah, there's no telling, but I would sort of be mesmerized.
Oh my God, it's Christopher Walken! Run! I liked him better without a head.
God, he was so scary. Like I said, I had no idea this was him when I first watched the movie because it just doesn't look like him with the scary teeth and the big, the crazy contacts they've got in his eyes. Yeah. And even right now, Ichabod shoves Katrina in front of him. He's such a chicken.
Yeah, he
My
is.
God, he just fought and risked his life like through the woods for this woman, and then as soon as the horseman has a head again, he's like, and just doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. So he's going to go back to hell, but I guess he's
taking Lady Van Tassel with him.
Taking a girl with him.
Well, because she's forced him into being a murderer for the last...
Which is kind of what he was anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think...
it's not like it was out of character.
Was it really bothering
anybody? He killed more people in the introductory sequence when showing the backstory.
Yeah, because he kills like 14
people.
Yeah,
he killed way more people then than he did in the whole rest of the movie.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing, too.
Oh,
it's
God, it's Christopher Walken!
With sharp fangs. And, of course, you've got to have this gruesome moment where he kisses her.
Yeah.
And you, so here's my question. How does she wind up with her mouth so bloody? Is he biting her tongue or is he biting her lips? Like, what is he biting?
He's just biting the shit out of it.
Oh, God. You have to have that grotesque moment where he makes out with the mom. And
would his breath be very bad or very good at this point? Because he hasn't eaten anything in a long time.
It's true.
It's brand new. All the tissue in there is brand new.
Back when he died, like taking care of your teeth just was not a thing, and especially if they're weakened to the point where you turn them into points. Yeah, it would be horrendous. I would imagine.
Yeah.
And she's not an osmic, so she would have to smell it. It sounds terrible. But yeah, so the horseman dives back into hell with Daredevil and Lady Van Tassel, and yay, the day is saved.
Yep, there you go.
And that's the end. And there's just that spooky moment with Miranda Richardson's hand. And Ichabod faints again.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Well, I can't necessarily blame him at this point. He's
been through a lot.
Yeah, it's been a rather exhausting day.
Yep.
And you can tell everything's okay because they took the blue filter off the camera.
And you can actually see the sunlight.
Yeah.
Yay.
Oh, look at the sheeps.
They're not as ominous. The fog is gone, and you can actually see more than 4 feet in front of your nose.
Apparently, the sheep came back because they weren't in the rest of the movie.
They were in the beginning of the movie when he's riding out to Sleepy Hollow. Okay. Yeah, and I
thought they had swanned off like we're out of here.
And I guess you never. I think Tim Burton did handle the age difference pretty well because they never like hardcore make out or anything. It's just like she kissed him on the cheek. That's the only time you really see them kiss.
It's not a new century, Johnny Depp. You got a year to go.
Hey, you can't blame Johnny for that.
A man of science, you should know better.
You can't blame Johnny for his lines, but yeah. So
are you taking me to New York City? You can just say New York.
I'm an interior decorator. You can just say decorator. But yeah, so they actually take young Masbeth with them, I guess, to be their manservant in their happy relationship or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, he's short round.
Yeah. Where do we live, Dr. Jones?
Yeah, short round went with Willie Scott and Indy.
There you go.
It's a very similar movie.
But yeah, the visuals are very stunning. The light is better, and then the movie comes to a close.
It's not a very long movie.
No, it's not.
It's really not. Which it
goes back to your flawless.
Yeah. It did what it needed to do. It was a good movie. I don't have any problems with it.
It had a little bit of everything. There was a little bit of romance, a lot of action.
Yeah.
There was a puzzle to solve.
But there wasn't too much of anything.
Right, exactly. It was incredibly balanced. Like, I don't know that I would call it flawless because I did poke a few holes in it, but it was very balanced. Yeah. So I will give it that. So to be said, if we're talking off to Seinfeld, like, this movie, I only enjoy it more every time I watch it, but even if I poke fun of it, because I've got that nostalgic love for it, because it was like the first quote unquote scary movie that I ever really appreciated.
Yeah.
And I was scared when I watched it, but I just love it now. It doesn't scare me at all. So I'd say it remains pretty high on Elf to Seinfeld.
Well, I mean, I would say it's about in the middle for me because, I mean, it hasn't grown for me. I don't like it more or less than whenever I first saw it. I liked it then. I like it now. I almost feel bad for it in that way because it's very good. And if a movie like this came out today, I'd probably love it just because they don't make movies like this anymore.
No, all movies that are coming out now are just so disappointing.
Yeah, so it's like, there's a lack of movies like this. And I would love to see something like this. I'd love to see Tim Burton make something like this. I'd love to see Johnny Depp in something like this.
Right.
You know?
You can venture away from the kiddie movies now that his kids are grown.
Yeah. So I would put it square in the middle on that, on the Elf to Seinfeld, on the ass.
On the ass scale.
Right in the middle of the ass.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7. Because I wasn't a huge fan of it when I saw it as a kid. Like I said, it did scare me, but I just love it now. It's improved with age, in my opinion. So
now, I suppose we should mention this is the last of our Halloween movies that we're going to be doing.
Yes, it is.
We are going to be following up. We've got a few episodes that are not Halloween that we're going to be rolling out throughout the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to be finishing up the first season with a movie month where we're going to be talking about Christmas movies.
Yep.
And then we've got some interesting surprises.
We do. We have all sorts of fun things coming down the pipeline for you hindsighters.
I don't want to scare our super fan Katie too much, but there are some big changes coming.
I think she'll still love us.
I think so too. I think so too.
She actually braved shivers to maintain her super fan status. It was not her favorite episode, kind of like me. And I even told her, I was like, you don't have to listen to it. And she said, nope. Titles are earned, and I'm the super fan, so she's listened to every single episode. Her feedback wasn't fantastic on that particular movie, even though she hasn't seen it. But Katie, we appreciate you. Yeah. We know you listen, and Michelle too. She's been going through every episode, and to that end, we've got to say, Michelle, Halloween Town, seriously,
sucked.
God,
such a terrible movie. What the hell were you thinking?
She's gonna murder us. But
all right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for listening.
And please join us online wherever you do your social mediums. We're on Instagram at Hindsight is Horrifying, Hindsight Horror on Twitter and Facebook.
And hindsight.show.
And hindsight.show, our new domain, yes. So thank you for tuning in for this spooky month of, some scary movies, some
but
disturbing,
really.
And some childlike.
Yeah.
So it was a mixed bag. So thanks for bearing with us during our first Halloween season, and stay tuned for our holiday movies and a few others.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. This has been Hindsight, and good night.